Welcome to the podcast, where we teach you how to create marketing that pops. Get ready for refreshing conversations with industry experts, trendsetters, and creative minds that'll leave you bubbling with inspiration. Get ready to turn up the volume on your business. Let's get popping. Welcome back to Marketing That Pops. I'm Olivia, your host, and today we are joined by Travis Lee from 3D Mail. Travis is internationally recognized as the go-to expert in getting direct mail delivered, opened, and read. As the co-founder and president of 3D Mail, Travis has helped businesses ranging from solo entrepreneurs and multinational corporations. Travis, welcome to the pod.
Great. Thanks for having me, Olivia. I'm looking forward to chatting with you and hopefully exposing some people to maybe an old school marketing method that they may not be too familiar with anymore.
So, Travis, I was mentioning this to you a little bit before, but for every episode that we have, we like to start off with a myth that you get to bust. So today is no different.
Yeah.
And your myth is a lot of marketers think that direct mail is dead. What would you say to that?
It's a great question. It's a question we get asked almost every time we do a podcast like this, almost anytime I go out and meet with prospects or customers. They all want to know, well, isn't everybody living online now? And to a large degree, yes, we are moving to a more and more digital community, a more and more digital space. And that includes everything from communication to marketing to business and everything else. But I have some numbers here for you. They come directly from the USPS. So I'm going to talk about a few of those. I won't bore you with the numbers, but I'll kind of give you an idea.
We love numbers here on the pod.
Perfect. Good. Then we're all on the same page. This comes directly from the USPS. They do a mail channel study. First off, 80% of people say they look forward to checking and seeing what's in their mailbox every single day. 80%. How many people would say the same thing about email, for example? Are 80% of the people excited about checking their inboxes?
True.
73% of U.S. consumers prefer direct mail for brand communication because it allows them to read their information at their own convenience, right? We've been trained, even in today's digital age, when something comes in the mail and it interests us, most of us have a spot where that thing goes, where we come back to it later, right? And so it sticks around. Let me see what else here. What are some of the other good ones? 66% of direct mail is opened. The average direct mail shelf life is 17 days. So the average message will stick around for 17 days on someone's desktop, on someone's countertop, in a file folder somewhere. So it has this staying power that I think we will all agree digital just doesn't have. Quick little side note, when you get let's say a coupon for a pizza, where does that go? Well, it goes somewhere in the house. When was the last time you printed a coupon off and then stuck that somewhere from an email? And so there's this tactical advantage to it. And then two more, and then we'll get off the numbers and we can talk a little bit. 82% of direct mail is read for a minute or longer. So compare that to all your digital studies, right? And then brand recall for direct mail is 70% higher than digital ads, which is what we all kind of know intrinsically, right? We all know when we pick something up and we read it and we study it, we have better recall of it, better knowledge of it. In a world where we are completely oversaturated with digital and all of your competitors are running to digital, it might take at least a pause to say, if everyone's going here, isn't there validity for maybe going over here?
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's what we're looking at, right? Is people still like it. They still touch it. There's still brand recognition. And frankly, they still respond to it. And there's less competition because there's less businesses doing direct mail. And now we don't have that constant noise around them that we maybe did 15 and certainly 20 years ago in the mailbox.
Absolutely. I think back to when I was a kid and I couldn't wait till I was old enough to get mail sent to me. I can't say that I felt that same way about emails, and still to this day, I don't feel that way about emails.
You know, it's funny. My kids are 12 and 15 as we record this, and they don't get a ton of mail, but it's always that personal mail. It's always a happy birthday card from grandma or an aunt. It's maybe a Halloween card with a $5 bill stuck inside of it for a Valentine's Day or something like that. To your point, there's still an excitement level to it that to a large degree, a lot of us have become numb to in all the digital noise.
Yes, absolutely. For those of the people who don't necessarily know a lot about 3D mail, can you kind of give us a brief synopsis on the company and kind of the products that you guys serve?
Yeah, so we started off as a trinket provider. And so when we say 3D mail, we literally mean three-dimensional mail. So mail that has length, width, depth. If you think of most mail, it is flat, it's a postcard. You can think of the 1,000 credit card offers you get in the mail, and they've got a number 10 envelope with a window, and they've got their logo showing through. We started out, is this video, by the way? Are they going to see stuff if I hold it up? So, because I've got some visuals and I can explain it. So, for example,
Absolutely.
we send out little boomerangs. So, this is a little plastic toy boomerang, and we send these out for customer and patient reactivation campaigns. We want you back, right? And so we send little things out like this. Let's say this was a great promotion. We run it every 2 to 4 years, depending on the Olympics. We have these fun little gold medals, a little plastic gold medal that we send out, and we'll send that out around the Olympics every other year when they happen. That's 3D mail. That's how we started. And as we got more progressive, as we got more mature in the business, we now are offering a whole suite of direct mail products. Everything from copywriting, layout, and design, finding the right mailing list, and then putting it in the mail, printing it for you, putting it all together, putting stamps on it so you're not licking stamps in your office in between phone calls. And so we do all that kind of stuff now. So we started in a very kind of niche way of doing direct mail, and we've since expanded. We still offer all the 3D mail products. It's kind of a front door to our company, but now we do all kinds of direct mail, from itty bitty little postcards to big welcome boxes when you hire somebody and they want to send a big box of welcome stuff, and everything in between.
We've definitely done a little bit of that for some of the clients that we've onboarded, and that's just gives such a lasting impression to someone that you are welcoming in, or it's just a really good first way to start things off of, here, let me give you something, and something that's not necessarily inspected. Like you were saying, it's not necessarily a bill.
Yeah. And so we do all kinds of stuff like that. The welcome boxes, maybe you've got a book that you offer as part of your lead generation marketing efforts. We can fulfill the books for you. And then, of course, if you want to mail 500, 5,000, 50,000 pieces of mail, we can do that too. So it's a wide variety of things that really come through this door. And we really specialize in maybe some of the more specialized things. That's kind of a repeat of myself, but we do a lot of things that other mail houses maybe don't want to do because they're too complicated, or maybe they're not big enough. You know, we work with clients of all shapes and sizes.
Let's talk a little bit about some of your first campaigns that you guys are starting out. And I really like the idea of the boomerang, kind of sending that back and getting people to like reconnect. What were some of those first campaigns that maybe you guys started like, oh, this really works, and let's keep going with that?
That's a great question. So you mentioned the boomerang, and I'll show it again here real quick again. It's just a plastic boomerang. We get these manufactured by a toy company, and we buy hundreds of thousands of them at a time. That was one of our first ones. And here's the reason why. In every business, now someone out there is maybe saying, oh, my business doesn't have this, but every business has customers, members, patients, clients, whatever you want to call them, who were a customer and now haven't been back as they normally should. So let's just think about a dentist. We all go to the dentist. We all know you're supposed to go every 6 months. So that's kind of like a built-in lost client reactivation. If you go to the dentist and they haven't seen you in month 6, well, then you're a lost patient. So now we can send out a lost client mailer. And that's a subsection of any list that every business has. So you've got customer list, you got your prospects list, you got all the lists that you could have, but we all have lists of customers who are no longer customers. And so it's an easy one to wrap your head around. It's also one where, unless you have a horrible product and a horrible service, you should probably have success with it, right? Because unless you're just making everybody mad and you're making everybody run away, some percentage of your people just forgot about you and would love to do business with you again. And that's one that we've used successfully for years and years and years. It predates us being in this industry. We didn't invent 3D mail. We invented our brand. But this idea of sending lumpy and dimensional mail isn't new. It's been around for, I think the oldest one I've seen, I'm kind of a sucker for history, and especially like marketing and direct mail. The earliest one I've ever seen was it was the 1880s or the 1890s. And I may not get the facts exactly right, but they sent out, I think it was a church, they sent out a little key because they wanted to get donations to replace the church organs. And so literally like in 80, 1890, 1900, well over 100 years ago now, they were sending little keys to get the community to donate to replace the organ in the church. So again, this is nothing new. It's just that we've kind of put our own spin on it. So the boomerang is a great one. Here's an old tried and true one. Works in a lot of businesses, works especially well in the B2B space. In most business to business applications, you're either helping them make or save money, or you're helping them relieve a headache, relieve a problem. If we boil down most offers, especially in the B2B space, that's what we're doing. And so I've got this fun vinyl bank bag. It has a real zipper on it, right? So if you're watching the video, great. If you're listening, but we actually put messages right into this bank bag. We take the backside and we put a mailing label and the postage on it. Again, this one's been around at least 30 years. So this one predates us by almost 20 years at least. We've been doing this since 2008. And that's another tried and true kind of winner, especially in the B2B space. Works in the B2C space as well. It can be a little cost prohibitive, maybe for some going to consumers. Generally speaking, a B2B transaction, they're bigger, there's more of them, places where that's used as well. So those are probably the two that stick out the most for longevity, and they've been around, and we just see them continue to do well year after year after year.
I like to call those win-back campaigns. Basically, people that you worked with, and it's a way to kind of win them back. They liked your service, but maybe it's just time to reintroduce yourself to them.
Yeah, it's a great way to do it.
So you kind of talked a little bit about those might be geared more towards B2B. What are some ones that you have seen that have been good for B2C?
Well, the boomerang definitely fits that mold, but let's pick another one. We work with a couple different attorneys. We have these little poker chips and we get their names embossed on them. And so we'll use a headline with, "Don't gamble on blank." So don't gamble on, I think this particular one is a bankruptcy attorney. So don't gamble on your financial future. We have another attorney who's a family law, so a divorce attorney. So don't gamble on family courts, the family court system, things like that. That's a tried and true one. I got a little stack of things here. So let me kind of go through while we're doing show and tell. We have these fake express envelopes. So they're made to look like a priority mail envelope or a FedEx. But the great thing about these, priority mail is between $8 and $12. These mail at a regular old postage stamp, which is around 73 cents as we record today.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, that's like a 1/15 the cost. But if this thing shows up, and again, it's made to look like an official USPS priority mail envelope. It's made to look like that, but different enough so we don't get in trouble with the post office, right? But when the recipient gets it, so we're using this right now with we just wrote a letter and are putting it in the mail for a home services company, doors, windows, gutters, roofs, things like that. We've used it for dentists. We've used it. What was the last one we wrote a letter for? I'm trying to think. Can't remember off the top of my head. But again, just another good workhorse. The thing is, you get that differentiation. So it's going to be the first and only time they probably get this piece is when you send it. So now they've got to open it. It's different. It's unique. When you do marketing, your biggest challenge is always getting noticed, getting attention, getting your post read, your emails read, your direct mail read, your TV ad watched, your radio ad listened to. It's the biggest. Attention is the currency of any marketer. And so if we can send little things like this, that's maybe just a little different than they're used to, you now have a chance to get that attention and earn that currency and earn that time. That's what we're up against as marketers, right? We've really got to stand out. We've got to demand attention. That's what it comes down to.
Absolutely. For a lot of businesses, and we kind of run into this problem a lot when you're talking to the CEOs and kind of the decision makers in the room, where marketing is the first thing that they want to cut from the budget. What do you have to say to that when that's brought up?
Yeah, and probably won't be the first one to say this on a marketing podcast, but marketing really is the lifeblood of your business. It really is. And now again, direct mail is a tool in a giant toolbox. So it's a tool, it's not the tool. So you've got your toolbox, you've got all the things that the more you limit that toolbox, the more you are going to limit your ability to communicate, to talk to attract, to get people to come to your business. And what we find is that I love an old Zig Ziglar analogy, old sales trainer. I don't think he's too old for the folks anymore, or too ancient anymore. He used to tell a story how he had to prime the pump. You have to prime the pump. And every day, if you don't prime the pump, when you go back to get the water out, it's going to take you immensely more work and time to prime the pump. And so now that's the thing with marketing is if you're not at least moving forward somewhat with your marketing, you're moving backwards. And to ramp up the marketing when you stopped it is exceedingly more difficult than to keep it moving when it's already moving. It's usually a short-term, excuse to save cash at a long-term expense of now not having the cash coming in when you really need it. I'm probably not the first person on this podcast to say that, but it really is true. If you're not constantly marketing in some way, going back to prime that pump makes it so much harder when you actually need it to be running at full speed.
Absolutely. We have done research and we have seen that it takes about 7 touches in order for someone to convert into an actual sale. Just like you were saying, there are so many things that are in the marketing tool belt, whether it is a direct mail piece or it is one of those emails. Those are all points and touch points for your potential client to be getting your information. You got to keep going.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the questions that I wanted to ask you is, let's say someone is a small business and they're coming to you and they want to start small and they don't know where to start. Besides maybe those winbacks, what's another campaign that maybe you would suggest that they could start?
So there's a couple different places where I would start. The first thing, and where you should always have your most success, is within your own customer list. And I'm not talking like we talked about the past patients or the past customers, the people who are current actively buying from you. And oftentimes it comes down to marketing 101. Give me a list of everyone in your business who has bought peanut butter, but hasn't bought jelly. And then just the opposite. And then can we get those two people, that person who's buying X but not Y, to buy Y, and then vice versa? So the answer usually where I start off with, and this is what we do internally, in fact, is it usually starts within your own customer list. And you want to look at that. And again, oftentimes it comes down to marketing 101, A versus B, product A versus product B, and not purchasing it. One of the things that we do as well is when we're looking internally and we've got a new product, a new service, a new promotion, anything where we're introducing it to our customer base, we will almost always start that conversation off with our current customers. And so now we have a little laboratory to dabble in. We can get our message right. We can see what sticks and what doesn't in a relatively trustworthy place where if we go down in flames, it's not the end of the world. So we'll start there. Now, let's say you're just starting out and you don't really know where you don't have a customer list. You can't really go there. Then you're going to want to look at who are my ideal exact customers. And really put a fine tip on that. Most people, when they market, this is most marketing, but especially direct mail, they start way too broad. And they've got a population or a universe of thousands or hundreds of thousands or even millions of people, when they should be focusing more on, instead of 500,000, are there 500 that are my best, most ideal clients? And that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to find, if I'm just starting out, I'm going to go as layer deep as I can so I can put that fine point on it and I can target exactly those people instead of firing out a giant message, broad message, because I think because I'm a roofer that everyone with a roof is my customer. Well, that's not exactly true in the vast majority of cases.
Yes, we've seen that a lot from our clients. Like, what is our client, And we have to tell them, well, we got to kind of refine that down a little bit.
And I will, if you do have an existing business and you do have existing customers, one of the things you can do is run what we call a regression analysis with that. So we can take that data, upload it against the consumer data file, which includes, I think, 220 million Americans. Basically, everybody over 18 with a pulse is in this database. and it will tell us the commonalities of that list. And now, so let's say we've got a list of our A-level customers. It will tell us the makeup of those A-level customers, so we can go now get a list of other people in our service area who match that person. So again, that's more of a slightly more mature business versus just starting out. But if you got a customer list, you can derive a lot of data from that, whether it's going out and selling them more things or collecting their commonalities and then going out and buying more of those names.
I was going to ask you, but I feel like you kind of answered this a little bit. What you would say a common mistake that people make when they're trying to get into lumpy mail. Maybe it is that they try to say that everybody is their customer, but are there other common mistakes that you've seen?
I would say that's definitely one of the big ones. Some of the other mistakes are, hey, this won't work for me. This isn't for me. My people don't read. My people don't do this. My people are too poor. So a lot of the regular excuses you may hear that businesses have challenges with. But here's the big one I see is that I don't know what it is about direct mail. In other media and other industries, it doesn't seem to be quite as bad. But they tried direct mail one time in one little pocket. They do it once, and then they declare it works or it doesn't work, and I'm in or I'm out. Well, the magic with any marketing, and I think the internet marketers maybe have this right, the social and the SEO, they've trained their customers that, okay, we're going to start from here, and the goal is to be to here by the time we're done, right? We're going to grow it, but we're not going to be perfect when we start. And if we do hit a home run, if we are perfect when we start, all the better. But for some reason with direct mail, I hear this a lot. Well, I only got 4 customers out of it. Now, depending on the numbers, 4 customers may be good, it may be not good. Most of the time when they tell me something isn't working and we actually pencil out the numbers, it actually is working, right? So I've got a client who does very, very high-end gyms. So one-on-one gyms, a fitness facility. And we were looking at the direct mail and he's like, boy, I only seem to be getting 1 or 2 new customers every time we do this. 1 or 2 new customers though, for him is generally speaking on the low end, $3,000 to $4,000 and on the mid end, $5,000 to $8,000. And it goes up from there if they sign a 12 or 18 or 24 month commitment. Well, when you put those numbers to what we were spending on his direct mail, he's coming out ahead on the very first transaction, mailing out several thousand pieces at a time. And if you know the gym industry, the fitness industry, especially these smaller boutique ones, and most businesses are like this, they have a critical mass number where when they get to that number, it's all profit from there. And so if you can get a customer at break even or slightly break even levels to get to that critical mass number, if you can get there in 9 months instead of 14 months, now the math pencils out. So that's just one example. But generally speaking, people, they try it once and then they say, it's not for me. I was just working with a client this morning. We've got to be on iteration 25, 30, 40 of his direct mail sales letter. And we mail it every day to a different list. And he's testing. And sometimes he'll give us a new letter to test. And he'll literally call us on the phone and say, it's not working. Stop it right now. Go back to the old one. So, but we're always testing and tweaking things. And that's the biggest thing is giving it some time. It's very rare that someone hits a home run out of the park the very first time they step up to bat, but we get singles, we get doubles, we turn those doubles into home runs. And that's what we're looking to do. You want to create marketing assets that can be turned on at any time without, we talked about priming the pump. If you've got 20 pumps always primed at the same time, and one of them goes bad for some reason, you still got 19 left. That's what we're looking to find with our marketing.
One thing that I found helpful is, and hi Travis, sorry, I was late.
No worries.
Is that people try to do it on their own because they're trying to save money. But the nice thing about you is that, because you guys know the postal service rules and everything, and they don't want things to get shipped back to them, and then they have to redo everything. That is something that is very valuable, especially if you have a small team. And here, like, they're supposed to drop everything and stuff envelopes and things like that. It's a great service that you provide.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and that's a lot of our customers that we deal with right now. I shouldn't say a lot of them. Many of them are doing it in-house, and it gets overwhelming. So they've got the office assistant sending out these packages, and she's got to send out 20 a day, whatever the number is, 220, 200, 2000. I don't care what the number is. And then the office assistant is out for 2 weeks on vacation. And then so they stack up for 2 weeks. And then it takes another 2 weeks to get caught up when she gets back. And now we have a whole month where this thing didn't happen, right? And so what I will often tell people, Michelle, in regards to that is you always have one of two things. You either have more time than money or more money than time. And if you've got more time than money, okay, yeah, maybe you should be licking stamps and putting postage on and folding these things, putting them in the mail. For most businesses of any maturity whatsoever, you generally have more money than you have time. So why don't you hand it off? And for us to do it is almost always cheaper than for you to do it in-house. Almost always. Not always, but almost always. And now you've got time to go do the other things to make you more money. And then that's not rocket science. That is the $1 million question for the vast majority of entrepreneurs where's my time and where's my money and where are they best allocated?
Yeah. One time we were following what it said on the Postal Service website, but then each branch has somebody that's kind of in charge of that, and they can be stricter or lenient.
You said it nicer than I do internally. They can be strict, yes.
Yeah, you might get stuck on something. And the only reason I'm saying that is because it's happened to us. Like, I had the post office bring this big old box. They returned everything.
It's a pain in the butt.
At this, I'm like, let's let you handle it.
Well, and the post office, most people think of the post office. They think of the retail experience. So they walk up and they stand in this massive line to go buy 3 stamps or to send the box to their kid away at college. That's their experience with the post office. And yeah, that's horrible. The post office is not in the retail sales business, but they kind of have to be because you need to have stamps and that kind of stuff. But when it comes to their core competency of doing the mail and then working with people like us who bring them a lot of business, you have an issue. You got to go to that. I got these stack of 15 letters back. What's wrong? And they look at them and they scratch their head and they don't know what's wrong with them. To your point, we know the rules better. And then we also have people higher up the totem pole we can go to when there are issues because we're not perfect. They're not perfect. We had an issue with a client just a couple days ago and we had to kind of work to figure it out. Something as mundane as the address being in the wrong spot. We worked with them. They worked with us and you don't got to worry about that. It's, we have orkin at our house because we live in kind of a rural area. So we get a lot of critters. Well, my wife and I don't want to deal with critters. So we hand it off to the critter pros. Same idea.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Focus on the stuff that you're really good at and let the other people handle, the stuff that they do every day on a daily basis that are the experts, really.
For sure. For sure.
I wanted to ask you, what are the trends that you're kind of seeing right now or what you hope to see more in the future when it comes to direct mail?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a big question. I will admit from around 2005-ish to maybe 5 or 6 years ago, direct mail was getting a little stagnant. There wasn't a lot of great movement and shaking in it. It was still envelopes with postage and stamps. Maybe they come out with a new die cut thing. The trend with most marketing now, and you've heard the catchphrases before, but multimedia, using multiple different kinds of media to connect with your customer or prospect. And now even more so what we call omni-channel marketing. So most people, when they think multimedia marketing, they send emails, they got digital, they've got TV, they've got radio, they've got all the things we could do. And they're all in their own silos, kind of doing their own thing. Now with direct mail kind of coming up into the 21st century, into the year 2025, we now have the ability to marry mailing lists with digital advertising. So we can take that same mailing list, send them a direct mail piece, and then show up in their social media feeds at the same time. We can then be having emails going out to them at the same time. We can have tracking codes and tracking numbers to know who's calling us. We can use things like personalized QR codes. Most people know about QR codes now. That was one of the few things that the pandemic brought to us that have survived and are good. Even my parents know how to use a QR code now. But now we have personalized QR codes. So we know if Olivia or Michelle or Sam or Dottie or whoever, we know who scanned it and when, and we can track that. So there are a lot of new things that are coming out with technology, with tracking, the ability to do multiple media kind of all under one roof to the same people. So now, instead of we have these silos of information, we've got the direct mail, we've got email, we've got social and digital. we can move some of those things all into the same silo. So now they're all working together in a way that makes sense. So when they see our ad on social media, it looks and feels and acts and has the same messages as the direct mail piece that shows up 2 days later after they see our ad on Facebook, for example. Yeah, so that's the big thing now is technology in the industry keeping up and catching up, and the ability now to kind of do all this multimedia stuff in a way that is congruent and makes sense instead of two different divisions in some businesses trying to do the same thing at the same time.
I was just going to ask, cannabis industry, have you done any direct mail for that industry?
For which industry? I'm sorry.
The cannabis industry?
We haven't yet. We had another business. So we're in Washington State, so cannabis is nothing new here. It's been legalized, I think, for 12 or 14 years now. In a previous industry, we've done another business my father owned, things that retail stores needed to operate. And so that was a great connection there. So we haven't yet. I think there's probably still some concerns about mailing lists and privacy. And because Washington State, and I think there's 20 something other states that allow it, and the Fed's still not allowing it. So I think there's probably some gray area there. Can you use a federal office, the post office, to promote something illegal at the federal level? It's all mailing, in our case, in Washington State, and nothing's illegal about it. So no, we haven't. And I think there's still a lot of hesitation, I think, on some of those people, those business owners, that isn't probably a best match. Let's put it that way.
Right. Yeah.
I was going to ask, you have your book. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So we have a relatively new book. I'll pull it up here and show it for those watching on a video. It's called The Simple 3-Step Process That Ensures Direct Mail Success, How Small Businesses Can Make Huge Profits Using Direct Mail. When we talk direct mail, and we could have talked about just these 3 topics today and left a ton on the bone, there's lists, there's offer, and there's media. So what lists do you mail? What do you offer them? And then how do we send it? Those are the only 3 areas that you can kind of mess around with direct mail. And so we talk about all 3 of those. So we call it the simple 3-step process that ensures direct mail success: list, offer, media. When do they make sense? What are the financial ramifications? How do you track? How do you measure? How do you decide what to use and how to use it? It's free. We offer it for $2.97 to mail it out, but it's free. If you just go to my name with my middle initial, travisalee.com, that'll take you to a page for the book for sure. Go and get the free book and you'll love it, I promise. And then you'll experience some of the stuff we talked about, a multimedia approach, follow up via direct mail, things like that. We practice what we preach.
Oh, good.
I probably have your book around here because it was on that list.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. There's several thousand of those flying around. And then we have an older version. There's probably tens of thousands of those floating around somewhere out there. We are big into booklet marketing. Maybe our first book was more booklet. This is definitely a book. We could have a whole conversation about how and when and why you should market a book, but we find it to be a very good lead generation piece for us.
Do you recommend calling also as one of those marketing tactics?
Yeah, as long as you have permission to, absolutely, for sure. There's obviously the federal do not call list, do not contact list. That is almost all moot if you're in a B2B situation. You can basically call anybody at another business as much as you want until they tell you to stop. And then there's obviously, if you don't have a relationship at a consumer level, then you get into some gray area. But if you've got a customer list and you're mailing them and you've got email, phone number, direct mail address, you should be using all those things. So they could be text messages, they could be voicemail drops. All of those things can be automated. If you've got a sales team and you can actually make outbound individual phone calls, I think those are great. But you just got to make sure that you got the permission to do that, because I wouldn't want anybody getting their hands slapped, because that's never any fun to have the FCC come knocking on your door.
No. You kind of talked about this too. Every question I wanted to ask you, you were just right on it. I love it.
No problem.
A lot of the time when we get to work with our clients, one of the things that gets brought up a lot is, what are we going to see with our return on investment for these mailing pieces? How are we going to be able to track them? You mentioned the customized QR codes, and anything else that you want to speak to in regards to that?
Some of it's going to depend on just your size and the scope of your business. If you're a relatively small office, you're mailing relatively small pieces. It can be something as simple as having a little team meeting, saying we're doing this new promotion. And when someone responds to the new promotion, You got to ask, how'd you hear about us? If you've got a good offer, they'll typically say, I got this offer. For most of our businesses that we work with, that's probably good enough. Just like tracking, keeping track, letting your team know, maybe having some special offer codes in a CRM if you've got it. As you get up the maturity level, though, you certainly are going to want to use some of the technology that's available. Tracking call numbers, right? So having a phone number that you can track. At the very least, that gives you raw data. How many phone calls did we get? And that phone number is only in that direct mail piece. Dedicated landing pages. Maybe you've got a landing page that the whole world can see, but creating a landing page that's only in that direct mail piece. Same idea. We do personalized QR codes like I talked about. So we can know they're static QR codes. We can know just like a tracking phone number. We can know raw numbers. How many phone calls did we get? How many scans did we get? With the personal QR code, we can actually see who scanned it. We offer this relatively new product. It's called Lead Match. And what we're able to do is we take your mailing list. Remember how I said we can run ads on social media platforms and send them a direct mail piece? Well, we actually put this little strip of code on your website. And now when someone hits your website from an IP address that matches the mailing list, we can now make that one-to-one match connection. None of them are 100% perfect, but the more of them that you use, the closer you will get to 100%. And what I tell people all the time is what you can track to your direct mail in your trackable things, tracking phone numbers, tracking websites, things like that, at least the bare minimum that you're getting. How many of us now, we get whatever advertisement it is, we go and Google search them and we read their reviews and then we go to their website and then maybe we act after that. Well, if you're tracking it to your website, the website gets the attribution, but the direct mail is what caused them to go there in the very first place. So whatever you can track directly to it, that's your bare minimum. You can probably add 10, 20, even 30% to that number because most of us do that now. We get an ad, we investigate the company, and then we go make a decision. And we're going to make the decision on the easiest one for us at that time when we've made the decision. Track all you can, track the best you can, but just know that's the bare minimum that you've gotten. You're very likely getting something anywhere from a small amount more to that to significantly more than that.
What's a good percentage of conversion rate for direct mail specifically?
It's a good question and it's a tough question because each campaign and each business is different. A lot of it's going to come down to what's the ask? What are you offering? If it's a big ask, then your response rate's going to be lower, but your potential on that client is much higher. So I told you a little bit earlier that we were working with a home exterior company, windows, doors, roofing, siding. He sent out one direct mail piece to about 300 homes. So we do radius mailers. He gets a new customer. We put a pin on the map, and then we mail to a certain amount of homes within that radius. He got 3 responses, which would be a 1% response rate, which is good, not great. But one of those 3 turned into a $40,000 job. I can tell you, he spent significantly less than $40,000 to get that one client. If you're doing half-price appetizers at the local Mexican place down the street from you, you need a relatively high response rate because your thing you're selling is a relatively low barrier, but I mean, an expensive meal's a couple $100, right? Well, how many couple $100, how many meals of a couple $100 would we have to get to the one guy with his almost $40,000 new siding and roofing job? It really comes down to response rate is one of those things that you measured, like when we spoke about there with how do you track and how do you measure. Ultimately, it comes down to that ROI. And it's very similar to the boutique gym I was telling you about, where they weren't happy with their response rates. But when we penciled out those response rates with their transaction size, they made sense for them to keep doing it. American Express and Chase Bank, they might need 0.5% to make it worth their time. And sometimes it might need to be considerably higher than that. But it really comes down to ROI and what's their transaction size? How many times do they buy? If it's a repeat offer, am I willing to go negative on the first order? Because now they're going to order something that gets delivered or
for free,
for forever. So there's lots of different ways. The response rates is just one of those things that you track, but it's lower on the totem pole than, say, again, direct ROI, lifetime value, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Thank you so much, Travis, for being on the pod today. I wanted to just give you some time to let people know where they can find you on the internet. I know you already mentioned where they can find your book, but is there any place else that they can find you?
Yeah, so the book, travisalee.com. That's to get that copy of the book for $2.97. If you just want to look at my website, if you just kind of want to peek in on what we do and you don't necessarily want to give me $3 in your name and mailing address, you can go to my website. It's 3dmailresults.com. So I'll spell it for you. The number 3, the letter D, mailresults.com. And that's when we spoke at the very beginning about the boomerangs and the bank bags and that kind of stuff. That's our main webpage for that. You'll get some fun, great ideas there. I'm also on LinkedIn. That's probably the place I'm most active. And that you just search my name, Travis A. Lee, you'll find me there too. So those are the places where we're active and you can find out more about us.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you for being on the pod. And we will have all of those links listed in the show notes below. And we will catch you guys on our next episode. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for listening with us today. Stay tuned for the latest in web marketing and design from ThrivePop. Want to be a pop star? Head over to thrivepop.com/podcast to join our mailing list for episode notifications, sneak peeks, listener feedback, and more.